Okay, so welcome everybody. We are doing the SNS community sharing session today, and we are having the theme sex and aging. So in this session, we just talk about our own personal stories around sex and aging, and with consent of everybody here, we may make these certain segments public. So who wants to start with your sex and aging story? I guess I can start. I think many years ago, I told my body that you are 28, you are forever 28. So whenever anybody asks me about my age, yeah, I'll give them my real age. I don't have an issue with aging, but every time I tell them my real age, I feel like this is like putting a negative message into myself because I want to stay young. But the reality, our body does go through changes. And notice the changes, especially during COVID, especially during the 6-week lockdown where we were, asked to stay at home and limit our exercise. So being a good Singaporean citizen who is anxious about COVID, I literally did not go out at all. So what happened with the lack of exercise is I started to feel aches and pains in my bodies that I never felt before. And a friend of mine also felt the same thing. So what has happened is the lack of exercise, actually, because I was also trying to limit my exposure. So I only ate once a day, and I actually lost a lot of hair, like 20 strands of hair a day. And so I started to worry about the lack of hair on my head. And I think with aging, what has also changed for me is my skin is drier. I think I'm starting to experience the symptoms of perimenopause. I experience hot flushes, and my skin is drier than ever before. I have a very oily skin. I've always had acne problems. So how this has affected my sexuality is, I think when I hit 40, it really didn't hit me at first because I was still like dating as usual. But I think once I hit like 23, 46, 42, 43, I started to realize that I was actually getting a lot less matches and a lot less men are interested in me since I already hit my 40s. So these are things that if you're not really noticing, it just kind of creeps up on you. Yeah, so I'm very fortunate. I haven't experienced things like vaginal dryness yet. Since I teach this for a living, so I know what to do about vaginal dryness. I'm not too worried about that. I think I'm concerned about becoming less attractive. I'm concerned about having white hair. And because of my work as a sexologist, I'm also concerned about getting plumber. And I have been shamed. I have been told by many people I need to lose weight. So instead of telling myself I need to lose weight, I try to focus on being healthy and being active. So what has happened is because of more time in the last few months, my practice is okay, can survive, but I do have more time. So what happened is I tried to exercise more, and as a result of the exercising more, I started to develop right knee pain. So now I have a lot of pain when I go up and down stairs. So instead of stressing my knee, I just like take one step at a time when I go up and down stairs. So all this is making me feel really old, and I do recognize that I probably need to get treatment on my leg. And with regards to my body, I have recently tried to go on a 8-day water fast. So it's less about losing weight and more about being healthy and detoxing my body because I have a lot of food sensitivities. So I thought going on this 8-day fast could help. So yeah, I do accept and recognize that I'm getting older and there is a definite pressure. Not just as a woman. I don't think I feel that much if I wasn't a sexologist, like if I'm just like a normal person on the street. But I think as a sexologist, there's always this pressure of being the sexy sexologist, being objectified, being sexualized, the pressure of needing to be a lot more out there than I feel comfortable, because I do want to be recognized as a professional counselor, and I don't feel I need to be sexualizing myself to get attention. It's not what I want to do. But there are my competitors who are doing that. And there are, of course, younger people who are sexier coming up and getting opportunities that I'm not getting now because I'm older. I'm considered like, I guess, not the new face. So there's all this pressure, and I just need to recognize that and keep reminding myself to focus on the quality of my work rather than myself as the face. Even though I am the face of my work, but I do try to remind myself that I am more than my face, I'm more than my age, and bring my attention back to the quality of my work. So I mean, even in my work, when I see other sex educators who are really not as sexy, or older sex educators, I do recognize and I do admit my own bias and discrimination around like devaluing their messages because they're just not as attractive looking. So I recognize that at some point in my life, this will probably happen to me. The same way that I'm looking at other people is the same way that is starting to probably start happening with me, especially in an Asian society where we are very image conscious. And so I would love to be one of those older people who is totally comfortable with themselves in every life stage that they're at. So I guess my main thing that I want to say is being aware of the changes that are happening helps with acceptance, because as it is happening, you accept, as it's happening, accept, as opposed to like just having blinkers on and suddenly it happens and then you have this big shock. So that kind of happened when I gained a lot of weight when I wasn't looking. I think there was 1 year of my life, my mom was going through cancer. The last year of my mom's life, she was going through cancer, and then I was affected by it. And then I stopped exercising because I was actually like feeling a lot of compassion fatigue, and I stopped exercising, I gained weight. And after she died, I did this event, and then I suddenly realized I was so plump. And people said, no, you should love yourself at every stage you're at, which is true. However, I wasn't prepared for it's kind of like you live every day and then you don't realize you have gained weight. So that was like a wake-up call for me that I need to come back to loving my body and taking care of my health. So I always try to look at my relationship with my body as one of love and compassion and health, as opposed to like losing weight to fit into every other person's expectation or social norms. So I think I'm like going on for a bit. I'm not sure whether I'm making sense. So maybe y'all can ask me questions if you want.
Yeah, I have a question, Martha. Do you think it's, as a sexologist, it's important for you to have a beautiful image? Does it make a difference, do you think, in your profession?
Yeah, I think it's important to be the best version of yourself, to be as beautiful and as healthy as you can, because that's what we are talking about. And it's also a sign of like wellness. It is important because I think clients look to people like us as experts and also as people of inspiration. But at the same time, we need to reflect what's inside for us and what's real and authentic for us. So this is why I feel comfortable with being healthy and focusing on wellness, but I'm not comfortable with sexy because as much as I do see myself as sexy, I don't, and I am very comfortable with my skin, and I'm very comfortable with being sexy with my partner, but I don't feel comfortable using sexiness as a bait. And I also don't feel comfortable with over-sexualizing myself, because I ultimately still want to be seen as a professional, because I do work with a lot of clients who are conservative. So there is always a separation in my mind between private and personal. What I want, how I want to live my life privately, and how I want to live my life professionally. So I'm always very conscious of clients who are more judgmental, who are more conservative, and I do want to have that professional persona. And I also do not want to, and because I do get sexual harassment, I also do not want to come across as like a titillating or like kind of like so-called the asking for it. All those I prefer to leave it for my private life, to do it in the bedroom. So yeah, anyway. So yeah, it's important, I feel, to be the best version of myself, because that's what I teach. I see myself as a role model, but I also see myself as not wanting to be a hypocrite. I do not want to be telling people things that they should be doing in their personal lives when I'm not doing it for myself, which is why exercise is a very important part of of my life, because movement and exercise does make me happy, and it helps to keep depression and burnout at bay. So it is very important for me. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Martha.
Thank you for your question. Okay, so who wants to share next?
I can share since I'm talking. I think, at this stage of my life, right, come to expect and be realistic that, the only one who's going to be interested is somebody like me, somebody my age, right? Because I've come to realize that, over the generations, there are different interests, not just with music, just culture. It's all different, right? So there's no point trying to attract anyone as out of my generation, and just my personal opinion. And like you said before, Martha, I just try to be the best version of myself, and hope that somebody in my generation will find some attraction there, right? So for me, it's about keeping things real. Don't expect too much of myself. And then, like I said before, I just want to maintain that I am healthy, right? And then that's the priority for me. At least that's what I think.
Maybe I can hop in here because I'm actually quite curious about what Darth Vader just mentioned. And Dr. Martha, of course, if you've got anything to chip in, please feel free to let me know. But I'm wondering, is the intergeneration attraction, right? Because like if I'm speaking from the LGBT community again, but there is also that stereotype that for people who are starting to age, they are only able to attract those who are of the same generation, or if they're able to attract people of a younger generation, they are usually seen as of a certain characteristic, right? So for example, like people who we term as daddies, right? So the thing about it is this a case of realism, or is there something that we can do better with our sex education such that we are better able to not fetishize, for example, people who are aging, who prefers to date younger folks? Or I'm just wondering in general, Dr. Martha, what's your experience on that? Like, can we actually do something about this kind of stereotypes and things like that through sex education?
Yeah, there was a time in my life that I was only attracted to older people, because I thought I was, and I think a lot of us like to think that we are older beyond our age. So we find people our age or younger than us childish. But as I started to get older, I realized I do not, just because I'm dating someone older, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're emotionally mature. And it also doesn't necessarily mean that they're smarter. So I needed to experience that so that the bubble can burst for me, because I didn't get sexuality education, right? So I had to kind of like, now I'm talking about my personal life, I kind of went through it, and then I realized that just because they're older, it doesn't mean they're wiser. Just because they're older, it doesn't mean that they are more successful or richer or nicer people. So once that bubble burst, then as I get older, then I realized, you know what, I'm actually not attracted to older men anymore, because for the fact that I am more secure within myself. I have grown up, I am capable, I can pay for my own bills. So why do I need to feel that I need someone to like balance things out or take care of me? So when that happened, I started to realize I needed to shift that that age limit in my head and recalibrate within myself. So that's when I started dating people around my age. And recently, then I started to date people younger than me. But I do have a cutoff age, and I also do not want to date people who are too much younger, because I feel that our maturity level is just so different, and the things that we're looking for in life are just so different. So I'm looking for somebody who does want to be in a committed long-term relationship. So that's the reason why I have that cutoff age in my mind. So coming back to your question, do I think that we should cover this in sexuality education? I think that would be great if you can cover it. That would be great, because maybe some people will, take this advice and kind of like mature for it. But I think that this fetishization of the age, like I can still get a younger person, or I can get an older person. I think that's part of the allure, because we are attracted to differences, right? It's just like people are attracted to people for different reasons, whether it's like bodily hair, or like I want someone who is fairer than me or older than me or has longer hair, or are more feminine or more masculine, or I think we are attracted to differences, and some of these differences may not be a bad thing. It's also part of the growing up process of us figuring out what we like and what we don't like. And then as we get older, maybe things can shift. So one of my theory, and this is my personal theory, it's not validated or scientific or anything like that. I do have this theory that the reason why as certain people get older, but the kind of people that are attracted remains the same, is because as we are getting older, we may not recognize that we are getting older. So just because we are physically older doesn't mean our mind is older. So which means that we can be attracted to the same type of people. So meaning like a 20-year-old may be attracted to a 20-year-old example. So when they are in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, they can still be only attracted to people in their 20s, because maybe that is the definitive idea in their head of what is an attractive person or ideal sexual partner in their head. So I think as we go through the different life stages, as we get older, I think we need to reflect from time to time, like who we are, what we like, what we want, and recalibrate within ourselves. What I meant just now when I said, like, I started to also start to shift in my head, like what kind of people I want in my life, whether older or around my age or younger. I hope that answers your question, kind of.
Yes. So the element of actually moving through different life stages and knowing kind of like what are the characteristics, values that we are looking for, focusing on whether we share the values rather than focusing on, like, let's say, age per se. And of course,
Yes.
age can be one characteristic, but as in the point is more of, oh, are we sharing the same value? And if I'm 20 and the person is 40, but we happen to be sharing the same value, then there shouldn't be any issues with us dating. There shouldn't be.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of times I think we are learning through bad experiences. So when we have a bad experience with certain type of people, then we'll say, oh, I would not want to date this kind of people ever again. When in reality, it could be that individual that had that issue, that whatever you have, maybe they are like unkind or whatever, cheat or certain things. So we start to categorize people, we start to put up walls, and it's not like a linear process, it's not like a straight cut thing, like we shouldn't think this way, or we should shift, we should grow, we should adopt, we should mature, we should recalibrate. I think some people just get stuck in their patterns, and they may not consciously realize that maybe they, instead of being very narrow-minded about the certain type, maybe like expanding it or widening it. So I think a lot of times it's not very, it's not really spoken about. We just struggle in our own ways. I think it's helpful if you can talk with friends to process what you're feeling, to be surrounded by a community that is supportive, that can actually really like help you to process what is going up, and maybe like clarify or re-clarify what is it that you want, or maybe go for therapy and start to re-examine your patterns and what is not working. But a lot of times, a lot of people are not doing that. A lot of people just don't want to go and think too much about these things because it's painful, it's difficult to actually ask yourself, why do I keep attracting this kind of people? Why am I always attracted to this kind of people? Is it serving me? Things like that. So sometimes people I'm sorry to say, but a lot of times like we learn through bad experiences, and then it's those having enough bad experiences and wanting to feel better that we actually work on ourselves. So people on a personal development, inner journey, doing this kind of inner journey and personal development work, a lot of times the only reason why we are doing this is because we have had enough pain and we want to understand ourselves more, we want to feel better. And so the pain that we experience, the suffering that we experience, the heartbreak that we experience, a lot of times, I think we think it's a bad thing. I think especially as Asians, like we are very, very critical, the way we're brought up, like, to have the perfect grades, to have the perfect career, to have the perfect life, to have the perfect this, that, like I said, don't be stupid. So when we make these kind of so-called mistakes in our personal lives, like we can be very, very hard on ourselves. It can be very, very difficult to pick ourselves up. So this is where it's really important to demystify the whole thing around like being an authentic person, being vulnerable, like talking to your friends, finding communities, and also like being able to seek out therapy. So I think this is how we can grow as people, because I think we are limited by what we see and what we know, and we just keep doing the same thing again and again until we realize it's not serving us and want things to change. So I don't actually see, unlike a lot of people, what they say, like it's a mistake. I don't see it as a mistake. I see it as if every time something happens that is so-called negative and you can learn from it and you can learn more about yourself and you can evolve as a result of it, why not? Growth is not Growth is not like so clean.
Definitely. So aging almost as a time span of experiences, mostly bad for us to grow and develop as a person until we figure out what works for us. And then from there on, working towards finding a partner that fits these values that we're looking for and characteristics.
Yeah, partner or partners, including staying single.
Definitely. I think there's not enough conversation about that, right? So like actually being able to stay single, especially as we grow older, where there's more expectation of us actually not being single, or yeah, it's all the Asian stereotypes also lah. When you're getting married, when you're having children, etc., etc.
Yeah, all those expectation, those milestones that we are, expected to have, doesn't need to be that way. I think life used to be very clear cut, black and white, our parents' generation. There's also like limitations of like where they can go, how high they can climb, or how far they can travel. And a lot of these things have kind of changed, for our generation and the generation after me. So I think it's great that we are living in a world that is much more diverse and much more complex in a way. And there's a lot of like intergenerational learning that is happening, and it can be a struggle.
Definitely.
Share your story.
Okay, my turn. Okay, sure. And I'll pass the baton to Nish after this. But I think for me, given that I'm still in my 20s, oh, I disappeared from the screen, sorry. So I think given that I'm still in my 20s, the key transition year were actually in recent years as I moved from my early 20s to my late 20s. So in the LGBT community, there is this prime period between 18 to 25 where everyone goes for you, right? Like really everyone on dating apps, they always say, oh, not above, anyone below 26, right? 26 and after is considered like you just go downhill from there. But given that I've never really been active in on dating apps or like let's say hookup apps and things like that, as in like to me the the sense of like, oh, okay, I'm young and everyone wants me never hit me until I actually left that age group, right? Only after I hit the late 20s where I'm going like, oh, I'm now actually being excluded from a lot of circles, a lot of communities, a lot of people's choices, right? The moment they see that your age is 20, after in the late 20s, they will just swipe left on you. And it's quite demoralizing, which is actually why I spoke about the sex ed question, right? Because I'm wondering, like, with all these stereotypes, is it truly because it's a preference, or is it something that has been conditioned in us to think that, anyone after 25 is just not appealing, right? In the LGBT community, especially where there is no proper sex ed, as in like people learn through hearsay, and there's been this constant feeling like as in after 25 you lose your appeal. I'm just wondering because I've seen people who look super amazing or has achieved great things in life, and most great achievements happen after 25, but they are just seen as unappealing on dating apps, and yeah, it's just yeah. Then of course I think there's another aspect that I'm also sensing the desire to actually go out and date or even play with apps. It's reducing with age, right? Because you have greater priorities in life, like sex and sexuality seem to play a smaller role as you grow older because so many other things come into your life. But of course, at the same time, biologically, as in it feels like also like there is less of that desire. But I think that's just a transition that I've been noticing as I moved into my later 20s lah. But yeah, that's kind of like my sex and aging story. Although I haven't aged, I haven't really like had enough experience for me to actually share much. But yeah.
Okay, so I got something to say. I don't want this to sound like a macam like lecture or whatever. I don't know, but this is what I think. Okay, because I'm heterosexual, so this is what I'm getting. Okay, I mean this is just through my perspective, which is that younger people seem to be more attractive because maybe they are less likely to have things that are not so attractive, like for instance wrinkles or like age spots or like scars and whatnot, injuries. And so young is seen as like healthy, vitality, fresh out of the oven, and like unspoiled, untarnished. So what happens with the whole thing about the fixation with younger people is also the fact that they are open, curious, gullible, easily manipulated, So when I go on these dating apps and I hear people saying things like, I only want young person because young people are open, curious, fun, creative, doesn't mean that older people are not open, fun, creative. It just means that we are stronger, we are clearer about who we are, what we want, what we don't want. We have clearer boundaries. So I think the misconception I feel is that younger people can be used, abused more easily, up for anything, try anything. I can do things to them. They don't know themselves. You know, I can push them. I can manipulate them, shape them, and so groom them. You know, things like that, which perhaps is harder with someone who really knows themselves. So I actually think this whole age thing, right, or going for people of a younger age or certain bracket, can also be seen as actually it is the power and control over someone, as opposed to really like coming from a place of love, or like you know, so maybe they don't care about this. They just want to have your way with you. You know, use your body. I for lack of a better expression, say use and abuse. So what happens with younger people is because we are so open and we don't know how to take care of ourselves, we actually end up getting hurt, not just physically but mentally and emotionally. So that actually results in the trauma and pain and the difficulty of moving past certain experiences, which unfortunately, like you know, you mentioned the lack of sexuality education, the lack of support can result in these things happening. So this is why I'm a big believer in the importance of learning how to heal yourself and going for support, community, and therapy. Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way is that why are these people going for younger people in the first place, and why only always younger people? It's because they don't know better. It's because they can be controlled, they can be manipulated, they can be used, they can be discarded, they can be abused. I know it's not the same thing, but you can also kind of think a little bit like, why do pedophiles only like young children? Or why is there a cutoff age to these young children? Like the moment they hit puberty, like that's it, you know, throw away. So things like that. And it's always not nice, of course, to be thought of as throw away. Just like, you know, when I hit my 40s, it did occur to me, suddenly I became also like, you know, like unwanted. So I had to really look into myself and find the value and the love for myself within myself, rather than seek it outside. And I can understand that there are people who may not be in a place in their life where they feel good about themselves in terms of where their career is and where their self-esteem, blah, blah, blah. So I have other things going for me that it didn't hurt me so much, although it did affect me. But I can see how a lot of times our growth is not, you know, all on the same part, right? In terms of finances, career, your sexuality, your self-esteem, like these are some of the areas, or even like your support network, your friends, your closeness with your family. So all these things, if in the ideal world, you know, all these things are like in a healthy level, but of course not so, right? Not so. Okay. So I think I'll just stop here. Do you want to say anything or add anything?
No, I think this is a perfect transition point to Nish actually, because Nish is actually in that younger age group. I'm really curious, like for Nish, like what's your experience with either sex and aging itself, or even sex with like in like, you know, while exploring sex, you know, and you know, dabbling with age and everything.
Okay. So yeah. So I'm just gonna speak from the LGBT community standpoint, and also from hookup culture, like Grindr and Tinder. Let me think. Because okay. So whatever you guys said about being used and abused because of a very young age, ever since I was 15, I've only been having sexual encounters with older men. And by older men, I mean much, much, much older men. I'm talking about double my age. So actually one of my first sexual experiences was I was 15 and he was 30, 35. So there's like a big no right there. And I completely agree with the whole aspect of, you know, they're young, impressionable, I can do whatever I want with them, because that's how it was. That's how my experience was. It was very manipulative. It was very grooming. You know, they like to use a lot of nice words to like reel you in, like, oh, you're very nice, oh, you look very young. I bet young people have like smooth skin. I bet you have smooth skin, don't you? Like these words are used. I'm not saying that every older person does this to a younger person in a hookup app. I'm saying that the grooming is a thing that happens, and most of the time this is how they do it to reel in the younger people on the apps lah. And what else? I also kind of want to bring up how younger people view aging. So I saw this tweet the other day. This person, he's homosexual, he's gay, and he was tweeting. He said this. I should find a boyfriend by the time I'm 25, because by the time I'm 40, like I won't get any sex anymore. And this is it's not only him. I see this kind of topics talked about like in the community. Yeah, like why do the younger gays, I only see this with gay people, I'm not really sure about the other people in the community, but why do they have a cut-off age for themselves? Like they think that after 40 they won't have a sex life, like they see themselves as unattractive at the age of 40. Like that's not true, but I wonder why they get this kind of impression lah. So yeah, I think that's all that I have in mind for sex and aging in my experience. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I want to say something. Sorry, SY, before I forget, you write down so you don't forget. So I wanted to say that this cutoff age, right? It can be real. It can be real as in this is really happening within certain communities. Like for instance, you're a heterosexual woman, and then you're 40, and then you hit your cutoff age. In China, they also have a cutoff age. By the time you're not married, you are like called leftover women in China, and like I mentioned, like pedophile, like certain age, like there is a cutoff age. So this cutoff age, whether it's real or not, right, also within ourselves. So let's say I have clients and also friends who actually say things like, and of course, actually somebody here also mentioned, is that, oh, I'm this age, I have this, so I guess I'm not going to find love. So I cannot expect to find a spring chicken. Or like, Martha says like, oh, okay, I'm this age, therefore I have a limit. So when we give ourselves this limit, right, cut off age or whatever, I think we actually kind of like shape our own destiny. So example, like my friend, in fact, I have a few friends who say that, oh, I'm divorced with kid, who will want me? So if you already believe that nobody wants you because you are divorced with kid, then you will not even be looking, and your energy is going to be very different, and you will not be looking, you will not be putting yourself in opportunities where you can find. And so this will reaffirm that belief in you that yeah, you're unwanted, you're undesirable. So what we tell ourselves matters. So like for instance, I always choose to be more positive than negative. So yes, I've hit my 40s, but I choose to still believe in love. I choose to still believe in the possibility of finding partner or partners. And I'm not going to give up on love. And I choose not to become like, what I call like ugly, bitter, and jaded. Okay, that's all.
no, definitely, and it's admirable. I think it's very difficult to hold that confidence, especially as you get older. I think I'm feeling it every year, but every year that passes. But I guess the point that I wanted to bring up was two things. One, I think another aspect that we haven't managed to talk much about is this idea of intersectionality. So the thing is that as in sex and aging, it hurts for everyone, but I think it particularly hurts if, let's say, you come from specific minority background or disadvantaged background, right? So for example, if you are, let's say you come from a lower socioeconomic class, you don't have that ability to, let's say, maintain yourself the way that, let's say, someone of a higher socioeconomic background can maintain themselves, right? Another issue would be, I can think of, would be physical health or mental health, right? Let's say if you do have certain physical health ailments that may put you backwards as you age, right? That is going to affect you so much more than another person who might not have any physical health issues as they age, right? So one can be way more sexually active than another. So I think it's in like all these elements of sex and aging, and there needs to be a consideration of intersectionality as well as its impact on a person's ability to be sexually active or sexually healthy. Then the second part that I actually wanted to bring up was actually this idea of, okay, we know that we need to stay confident with and comfortable in our own self if we want to maintain a sexually healthy lifestyle even as we age. What are some tips, Dr. Martha, that you might have, aside from, let's say, just now I think you mentioned eating healthy, exercising healthy, what else can we do to actually maintain that confidence without falling into, let's say, a vicious cycle of, let's say, being overly conscious of our own body? I mentioned that because I think, especially in the LGBT community, there's a rising case of body dysmorphia, right? People who think that I have to exercise like mad to be super buff so that I remain attractive as I age. Right, but we know that that's not healthy from a psychological perspective. So what else can we do to maintain a sexually healthy lifestyle as we age?
Yeah, so I think this thing I want to say is, your words shape your reality. So the way you think affects the way you feel, affects the way you act. So if you keep thinking something, and then it becomes your truth. You actually start to believe this. So it may start off as a thought, then you keep thinking it or obsessing over it, and then it becomes a belief. Like for instance, if I'm strong, if I'm buff, if I have muscles, then I will be able to get this partner, this or that partners. I will be considered attractive. But there are so many definitions of attractive, so many shades of attractiveness, and I like to believe there's someone for everybody, because of the diversity of the world that we live in. There's no way, I'm in an Asian body. There's no way that I can also be all things to all people. I am not Caucasian. I can put on a wig, but I will still not be a Caucasian. But we can definitely pretend. So what I'm trying, anyway, coming back to what you said about body dysmorphia, what I like to think or tell myself is, do your best, let go of the rest. So this is like one of my favorite mantras. Do your best, let go of the rest. So yes, I want to be healthy, but to what extent am I able to exercise? To what extent am I willing to do it? And if I can, I've done it already, done my best, then I tell myself, let go of the rest, let go of the rest. I cannot, I tell myself I don't want to become fixated or obsessed about something. So I feel that we need to develop these other things going on in our lives beyond our personal life. So I also know of people who throw themselves only into their professional career to the detriment of their personal life, and say things like, I get myself sorted, especially in a country like Singapore, no money, no talk. You're nobody if you're no money. So a lot of people actually park aside their sexuality and their personal life to the detriment of, then it's like a no-win, right? Because you are not focused on your personal life, you have no friends, and then you are also getting older by the minute, and then it starts to spiral to the sense like, there's like this catch-22, there's no way around it. So it's very easy to say balance, but a lot of people are actually struggling with this. So I guess when it comes to health, all the general tips comes in handy. The older I get, the more I realize it's true. The importance of sleep, exercise, your diet. Sleep, exercise, diet is very, very true. In my work, I really didn't realize that this will happen, but I actually spent a lot of time actually talking about masturbation, self-pleasure, solo love, whatever you want to call it. The reason is because it's really important to not shut down our sexuality. Even if you're by yourself, yes, it's not the same, but and yes, there are people who think of masturbation as a close cousin of abstinence, or like it's pathetic. But I really like to reframe it to actually staying connected to your body with your sexuality, rather than seeing masturbation as a negative thing. So I would even add, exercise, diet, sleep, and self-love, self-care is very, very important. So doing what you can, let go of the rest. I think it's true of everything. People who are more informed, more educated, they will make better choices. And people who are more affluent, people who are more have more opportunities in life, they tend to do better, they age better. And the reality is we live in an unfair world. So the older I get, the more I recognize my privilege, and the more I actually realize it's so important to not be another person who puts out more hate and more pain into the world, meaning like not judge people so harshly, and be kind in every situation that I can. Yeah, that's all. I hope I answer your question.
Definitely, definitely. Maybe I have another open question. This is open to anyone who's on this call today. But I'm just wondering, as we are aging, right? And I mean aging as in whichever life stage we are in, how have we allowed ourselves to explore ourselves sexually more, right? Beyond what, let's say, we started off in the past. Like, for example, most of us start off masturbating, and then thereafter maybe we've engaged in other things. How have we allowed ourselves to be exploratory as we age? Open question to anyone.
So the question is, how have we allowed ourselves to
be more sexually adventurous or explore ourselves sexually more as we age? Like I could give an example. Like for me, I'm actually discussing, like I engage in open conversations with my sexual partners as to whether we can engage in multi-partner sex, right? So that's something that I think I've only gained the confidence to do as I grew a bit older, because I felt that as in like okay, these are people that I can identify to be trustworthy to engage in this kind of exploration. So I realized that came with age, right? It's something that I didn't dare to do when I was, let's say, 20, 21, 22, right? Because back then it was just too messy, right? Too many things, too overwhelming. But that's me, right? So just kind of wondering what it is like for y'all.
Right. I think for me, it's a bit different because as someone who doesn't have a partner, then it's a bit difficult to explore yourself sexually over the years, because I don't have a consistent partner. So it's going to be a bit difficult to find one person who I'm comfortable with communicating different things I want to try this time around. And also, even if I do something different with this particular partner, the chances of me meeting him again is low, because it's like just a hookup, you know. So with the people that I guess I do meet more than once, then that's when I get comfortable. Okay, let's try something else. But that hardly ever happens for me lah. So I guess you can say right now I'm still in the process of being comfortable and in the process of exploring. Yeah, so it's a work in progress.
Definitely. No, it's great. It's great that you are working on it. I mean, it's a journey for all of us, right? What about the other participants? If you have anything to share, of course.
I think being more adventurous is about, and I'm talking about being in a relationship. I tend to be more accepting of what my partner wants, right, as opposed to what I want. So sometimes I feel obligated to be a bit more adventurous, not for my sake, but for the sake of my partner, who may want to explore, right? I'm not just doing it for myself, but I guess from my own personal perspective, I have to draw the line where I don't think things are right. I wouldn't do things that I wouldn't agree on. If I feel very strongly against it. I hope that makes sense, right? Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I don't just do things for myself. I do it for my partner as well. If I think that my partner is wanting it, or wanting to explore.
Definitely. So almost the element of like, because you're in a relationship, you have the opposite experience of Nish, where it's like you actually have to go out of your comfort zone in order to, let's say, satisfy some of your partner's wants during sexual activities and things like that. But then at the same time, you're also drawing boundaries, of course, to certain things that you're not comfortable doing or are totally out of your value system. That's what I'm hearing.
Right, and I think that goes both ways, right? And of course, I would appreciate it if my partner also shows that same level of respect for me, also.
Definitely. it's a different journey for everyone, and definitely sometimes it works. I think kind of like what Dr. Martha said just now, there's a bit of element of like we are all still learning through bad experiences. Some experiences work out better than others. Yeah. But also pulling to Nish's point just now, actually Nish, I realized that a lot of the people that I trusted to engage in such exploratory activities are not always my romantic partners. So why I say that is because I realized that a bit like what Darth Vader just mentioned just now, sometimes there are certain desires to fulfill wants of your romantic partner for the sake of the romantic relationship. And from there, you actually have to forego certain sexual needs or sexual desires or sexual exploratory activities. So actually, a lot of the times, these exploratory activities that I spoke about just now were with friends I trusted. So my experience was actually very much shared with you in that sense. But what about yourself, Dr. Martha? What, like how with sex and aging, how have you engaged in more exploratory activities for yourself?
Yeah, so I'm very, very fortunate, and I really want to say I'm very fortunate that I had really positive initial sexual experience. So it was really, really positive, really loving, really empowering. So because of that, I have always had a curious mind regarding sex and sexuality. So I'm curious, I'm playful, I want to try new things. And so as I get older, it's a bit like been there, done that. But yet I'm not jaded about sex. So instead, I'm interested in not just the physical act of sex, but the emotional act of sex, and also the different things we can do around sexuality and expression, and then also the more spiritual aspect of sex, for instance, like tantric sex, eye gazing, and all these other playfulness that can happen as I get older. Because I also have a lot of knowledge around sex and sexuality. So to me, it's like this subject is something that has become richer and richer and fuller and fuller as I got older. So I really appreciate that it all came from a place of positivity and confidence. And I say this because a lot of my clients cannot move past that. They cannot talk about being playful and creative in the bedroom because they have experienced trauma, they have experienced difficulties, rape, assault. And so it's very difficult when you don't have that foundation of safety. It's very difficult for them to feel safe and be playful and express in the bedroom. So this is also linked to, of course, childhood trauma and other things that we experience as humans that can also shape and color the way we look at life and the way we look at sex. So I really, really, yeah, so yeah, that's why I say I'm very fortunate about it. I'm very fortunate.
No, I think, yeah, you're definitely right in that, as in the first few experiences often mark how we view sex, even as we age, especially as we age, right? And like, even I myself, I can remember that, and like, I was fortunate to have friends who actually taught me, right, things to do to protect myself, things to do to actually enhance the sexual activity and experience. And I think many of these lessons are lessons that I bring to myself even up until today. Yeah. But yeah, it's difficult, right? It's difficult for people who started off with a traumatic experience to move past that and the experience of trauma and to embrace their sexuality again. Okay, so shall we have some last words before maybe we close off the call, because I realize that we are actually almost out of time as well.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk a bit about our last thoughts about sex and aging before we close off the call. Anyone wants to take the bait?
A few words. Sex doesn't stop after 40 or any age. Age gracefully, it's, communication is very important. I always say this. That's what I've learned today. And honestly, this I hope the view on I hope this ageist view on sex at a certain age will stop, in the gay community, because yeah, it's quite rampant lah. So I hope a lot more people learn about this. Yeah, that's my last thoughts.
Definitely. And Darth Vader, do you want any last words?
No, nothing that I can think of. No, I'm fine. Thanks.
Okay. Dr. Martha, or do you want me to go first?
I guess I will have to say, when it comes to sex and aging, there is no cutoff age to sex and sexuality, like Nish said. And also, we are capable of being sexual until the very last breath, until the day we die. We can be sexual even without a partner. So if we tell ourselves, this, that, or what is a death sentence or a cutoff age, then in a way we are closing ourselves to the full spectrum or the full aspect of what life can offer. And I don't want to go around telling people what they should do with their lives. We cannot control people, but so I just support them from where they're at. Yeah. So, but I do see a lot of clients, people who say things like, this is not important, or this is frivolous, or this is dumb, this is stupid. I've already finished my duty sex, I already gave up to the kids, so blah, 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 blah. And they just start to close off their sexuality, but maybe they don't realize they're also closing up themselves to life.
Definitely. Duty sex is something that I think we haven't managed to speak much about, but it's such a difficult schema to move past, right? It's like a lot of people think that sex is just for reproduction, but in reality, especially as we know that there's sex, if we look past the idea that sex is just for reproduction, we start recognizing that it's so fundamental in us. So like, yeah, how do we maintain a sexually healthy lifestyle even after, let's say, our birthing years, even after, let's say, we've completed our supposed duty for reproduction? It's such an important topic to talk about. Okay, I'm gonna steal the last words since we are at time. But I think I've actually learned so much from everyone. This whole topic about sex and aging, I think, is such a taboo topic that we needed to talk about. The low sign up rates, to me, is a reflection of how difficult this topic is. It's not sexy like August like we did the last month, and but it's so important to talk about because it's something that all of us have to go through, right? I think Nish brought up a very important point about how especially within the LGBT community, there is still this element of ageism where there are stereotypes about how like cutoff age of sex, as well as things relating to, like, let's say when you hit 40, you're totally unattractive anymore, and a lot of it are stereotypes more than realities. So I think this conversation that we've had is so important. I'm really grateful that Dr. Martha, you've invited SGR to actually have this discussion with you for today's Sugar and Spice session. I'm so excited that we got this recorded for everyone. But yeah, I think that is basically the end of our workshop for our discussion for today. Thank you, Dr. Martha, for actually hosting this for us together with us with SG Rainbow. And of course, thank you to all our participants for joining today. So with that, join us in our next Sugar and Spice series. It's also co-hosted by Dr. Martha as well as SG Rainbow, and we'll be talking about coming out, right, in whatever forms it is.
So today is a very good session. I feel we covered a lot of important points, and it's really been very fun, and I really appreciate SY with your prompts and your questions. I really appreciate your sharp mind. So yes, so we'll stop the recording here.
Thank you.
Wait, let me stop the recording.